Welcome to the podcast. I'm Mike Peterson. We've seen them in movies, even television shows, the use of a crystal ball. And quite often it's associated with people trying to look into the future by a mystic or by somebody, or trying to connect with deceased loved ones, people that have passed over. But what is it that they're actually doing? Well, the person using that crystal ball or another item, it's called scrying. Scrying is a form of divination that involves gazing into a reflective, translucent, or luminescent surface to gain insight, or to receive visions, or to discover hidden knowledge. Common mediums used for scrying include crystal balls, mirrors, and especially black ones, water surfaces, and polished stones or gems. The practice can be found in so many different cultures, and it goes back throughout history. But it's most often associated with mysticism and the paranormal. Now, how does it really work? Well, the person that is going to do the scrying is usually created a quiet place, quite often dimly lit. The goal is to achieve a relaxed yet focused state of mind, conducive to opening the subconscious and, according to practitioners, tuning into higher realms of consciousness or a spiritual entity. The practitioner then gazes into the scrying medium, and unlike normal looking at something, scrying involves a soft, unfocused gaze that allows the eyes to relax and the mind to open to impressions and visions, and often sensations. The surface of the medium is more a focal point for concentration rather than a screen to watch visions on, although that does happen. People believe that through this process, they will see images or symbols or scenes, and they manifest often in the mind's eye rather than on the physical surface. These are interpreted by the scryer, and the process that they have is highly subjective because it's based on personal intuition, psychic capability, whether they have a spiritual belief, and what kind of symbolic associations that they might have. Some people view scrying as a way to tap into the subconscious mind, believing that the relaxed state, that trance-like state, enables them to access deeper insights, solutions to problems, or unresolved emotions. It also connects to, as I mentioned, people that have departed this world, the spiritual guides, and a universal consciousness. Some of the more, we'll say, famous people that have used scrying. One was John Dee. He lived from 1527 to about 1608 or 1609. He was an English mathematician, an astronomer, an astrologer, and, believe it or not, an advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. Now, Dee is one of the most famous historical figures associated with scrying, and he's very well known for his work with Edward Kelly, a seer who worked with him in his mystical experiments, if I could put it that way. Dee used a crystal ball, among other tools, to communicate with angels and other entities, documenting these communications extensively. Now, as I mentioned, Edward Kelly, he lived back in 1555, 1597. And Kelly was an associate of John Dee and played a significant role in Dee's scrying sessions. Kelly claimed to have the ability to communicate with angels through a crystal ball, acting as Dee's primary scryer during their explorations. Now, something that might grab some people oddly is the Witch of Endor. While not a historical figure in a traditional sense, the Witch of Endor is a character from the Bible, found in the first book of Samuel. And she was known for her practice of necromancy. In a famous story, she conjures the spirit of the prophet Samuel, and she did this at the request of King Saul. Now, while not directly related to scrying, the story is an early example of someone reputed to possess the ability to see into the supernatural realm or the future. But one of the biggest people that used scrying as a tool was Nostradamus. And he had a collection of 942 poetic quatrains. Okay? And these were all predicting future events. And it said that he practiced scrying using a bowl of water and a black obsidian mirror. And he would receive visions of the future. Now, if we talk about Nostradamus for a minute, there's a lot of debate whether Nostradamus, if his predictions were accurate. He composed his prophecies, like I said, in what are known as the quatrains. They're a 4-line verse. And they're often written somewhat vague. They have a lot of metaphor, and they're cryptic. Now, the obscurity makes the interpretations of his quatrains really subjective, and many claim that various events in history were accurately predicted by Nostradamus, while skeptics argue that the vague nature of the quatrains allows them to be kind of retrofitted to a wide array of historical events. But advocates of Nostradamus and his prophecies often cite his supposed predictions of major world events, such as the rise of Adolf Hitler, the French Revolution, the atomic bombings of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the September 11th attacks, and various natural disasters. Now, another item, instead of using a crystal ball or any kind of scrying device, is a talent called psychometry. And it uses mainly personal items that people had, or jewelry, or most often something that is metallic. Psychometry is that paranormal phenomenon, which is a psychic ability that an individual will claim to obtain information about a person, place, or object by touching that object or being actually in close proximity to it. Those who possess the ability are known as psychometrists. And psychometry typically involves holding on to an object, like I said, as a piece of jewelry, a photograph, a personal belonging. And then they focus on it in order to receive the impressions, images, emotions, information, sometimes direct conversation. Now, these people may report receiving various types of impressions or sensations when touching an object, and it might often include a visual that they might receive, or they hear something, the sound. Emotions are always attached to items of that nature. Sometimes they even smell something that is connected to that particular item. A lot of this gives them the capability to get a little bit of a better insight about the past of that object or the experiences of its owner. People that work with psychometry believe that every object carries its own energy or vibration that is imprinted with information about its history and the people who have interacted with it. By touching the object, the psychometrist is thought to establish a psychic connection with this energy, allowing them to access the stored information. And this happens much more often than you might think, even to people that may not understand what they're doing is psychometry. They might pick something up and get an odd feeling, and they'll put it down going, ooh. Or they might go to use something and they pick it up and it just feels negative, and they'll put it down and walk away from it. Now, people that do psychometry interpret the impressions and sensations that they receive intuitively or as a psychic, and the symbolism that it brings, and they do this to make sense of the information. Oftentimes you'll see that a person using psychometry might use other methods of meditation, visualization, or sometimes they might even be in a trance state to help enhance their capability to receive and understand different symbols or different impressions that they would get. Psychometry is commonly used in paranormal investigations, psychic readings, and spiritual or metaphysical practices. You might even find that people that use psychometry might be using it to help a law enforcement and able to give them a little piece of information that they may not have had previously. As with anything that is spiritual or metaphysical, it's important to note that psychometry is considered a controversial phenomenon, and it's not supported by science at all. The skeptics argue that information obtained through psychometry could be attributed to cold reading or suggestion or the unconscious mind, rather than genuine psychic abilities. Scientific studies attempting to validate psychometry, it's produced mixed results, and the phenomenon remains largely unexplained within the framework of the conventional science. However, despite the lack of scientific consensus, psychometry continues to be practiced and studied by people that are psychic or looking into psychic phenomenon or spirituality. Speaking of psychometry and energetics, there's an interesting thing called ley lines. The ley lines are hypothetical alignments or straight lines that connect various geographical points, places of significance, such as ancient monuments, sacred sites, and natural landmarks. The concept of ley lines is often associated with Earth's energetic field and spiritual or mystical significance. Ley lines are said to crisscross the Earth, forming a network of energetic pathways. They're often identified by tracing alignments between sites of historical, cultural, or spiritual importance at places like Stonehenge in England, the Great Pyramids in Egypt, Machu Picchu in Peru, and other ancient places and structures. The formation of ley lines is theorized to be influenced by various factors, including geographical features, astronomical alignments, and cultural considerations. Some researchers suggest that the ley lines may be influenced by Earth's magnetic field, underground waterways, or patterns in natural energy flow. Now, proponents of ley lines believe that these alignments channel subtle energies or forces that have a spiritual or metaphysical significance. It's thought that the ley lines create pathways for the flow of energy similar to meridians in the human body, or the energy lines in traditional Chinese medicine. Ley lines are often associated with spiritual or metaphysical beliefs, and some people believe that they have a profound impact on human consciousness, our spirituality, and our well-being. It's suggested that sites located along the ley lines have heightened energetic vibrations or a spiritual resonance, making them conducive to meditation, healing, and spiritual practice. The purported effects of the ley lines on people vary depending on individual beliefs and their interpretation. Some proponents claim that being in proximity to a ley line can enhance a person's intuition or their spiritual awareness or their psychic capability. Others suggest that ley lines have a subtle influence on mood, emotions, and overall well-being. It's important to note that ley lines are a concept rooted in folklore, mysticism, and alternative archaeology, rather than mainstream science. Now, while ley lines have captured the imagination of enthusiasts and researchers, their existence and significance remain speculative. Skeptics often attribute the perceived alignments of ley lines to coincidence and cultural bias, or selective interpretation of data. Nonetheless, ley lines continue to be a topic of interest for those interested in exploring the intersections of geography. In today's world, and these are three places that are found from the Midwest out to the East Coast or Eastern Seaboard. These are spiritual camps, and they have, again, it's an understanding that the three of them, being the oldest around, are connected to one another. The first one is called Lilydale. It's often known as the Lilydale Assembly, a community that has been a center for spiritualism and psychic studies since actually the late 19th century, and it's one of the oldest and most renowned spiritual communities in the United States. The assembly began in 1879 and later changed to the Lilydale Assembly in 1906. Now, this is a place that quickly became a hub for spiritualism, attracting mediums and psychics and speakers from around the world. And the community hosted lectures, workshops, seances in an effort to provide evidence of the spiritual world to promote spiritual growth and understanding. Today, Lilydale continues to operate as a spiritualist community, drawing visitors every summer season with a program that includes mediumship demonstrations, healing services, workshops, lectures on spiritualism and metaphysics, and psychic development. The second camp is Camp Chesterfield in Indiana, and it's another significant spiritualist camp in the United States, similar to the historical importance of Lilydale in New York. Camp Chesterfield was established in 1891. Throughout the 20th century, Camp Chesterfield expanded both in terms of physical size and the scope of its activities. The camp added numerous buildings, including a hotel, a chapel, and several small meeting halls. And the facilities host lectures, workshops, demonstrations on spiritualism and psychic phenomenon. Mediums and spiritualists from around the country and also around the world have visited Camp Chesterfield, helping to establish its reputation as a significant center for spiritual practices. Today, Camp Chesterfield remains an active center. It's home to the Indiana Association of Spiritualists. Often it offers a variety of programs and services to the public. And the camp also features several historical and spiritual landmarks such as the Trail of Religions, the Sunflower Hotel, and the Het Art Gallery and Museum. The last one, the third node, if I could put it that way, is called Camp Casadega, more commonly known as Casadega Spiritualist Camp. And it's just northeast of Orlando, Florida. It was founded in 1894, and the Florida climate was seen as beneficial for individuals suffering from various ailments, and the location was deemed perfect for year-round activities, not just the summertime. Casadega flourished as a community focused on spiritualism, healing, and mediumship, and it became known for its psychic studies and as a place where people could seek guidance through mediums and spiritual healers. Over the years, the camp grew to include a number of homes, a hotel, a temple, a library, and other buildings dedicated to the practice and education of spiritualism. Casadega Spiritualist Camp has been featured in various media and has gained a reputation both for its historical significance and its ongoing role in spiritualist practice. Despite facing skepticism and criticism from outsiders, the community remains a unique and enduring part of Florida's culture and the landscape. Now, Casadega's significance goes beyond its spiritualist practice. It also serves as a historical example of the spiritualist movement impact in the United States. It also serves as a historical example of the spiritualist movement's impact in the United States, showcasing the continued interest in and practice of mediumship, psychic readings, and the belief in communication with the spirit world. So if you get a chance, whether you're in New York or Indiana or Florida, take a minute and stop by one of the camps and see what you think. That's our podcast for today. I hope everybody has a great week. I'll see you next time.